بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum. It's usually the sign that someone is not prepared to give a speech when they start with anecdotes. Just remember that. I'm going to give you, it's like David Blaine, you know David Blaine when he teaches you like the secrets of magic? I'm going to give you the Imam secrets. So whenever an Imam or anyone starts a speech with anecdotes, usually it's because they're not what? But in this case, it's the opposite. So I'm actually going to start with two anecdotes, which may imply that I'm not prepared at all, which is not the case. The first is that there's a very dear, well, I'll get to that one next. The first one is that in the 80s, we're in the valley, right? So it's very interesting. In the 80s, there was a Christian preacher who came to the valley with his wife, and he was in his 70s, and he was invited by this fledgling congregation, Christian congregation, and he moved here. Don't read too much into this. He moved here, and that was my grandfather. Very interesting, yeah. So San Fernando Valley Christian School, he was actually the principal of that school and helped found that school, so I thought that was kind of cool. Second, don't read too much into it. Second one is that on my way here today, I wasn't supposed to be here today. As he mentioned, it was going to be next weekend, and alhamdulillah, you know, since I was in Culver City, it's easier just to come here. And as you can tell, I have the Umrah flu. And I was late, as you know, and I hate being late. About as much as I hate the Lakers. And I'm from Boston. You gotta deal with it. And this is like in the seal of the year of sadness for both of us. And I was really late. You know, the traffic. There's never traffic on Sunday in LA because no one goes to church. And then on the way here, I was like, why am I late? Like, this is crazy. Everything. I lost my wallet, my hotel, and gas, and it was just one of those weird mornings. And I have a really good sister, really good friend of mine who I taught probably 15 years ago named Kosar. Johanna Shishia from Iran. And this sister and I have a really weird kind of spiritual bond. When I moved to Boston, she was in Boston, you know. I moved somewhere else and she was there. It's always been this weird kind of spiritual, transcendent kind of relationship. Very brilliant young woman, ran the Boston Marathon, sister works for YouTube, and I was at this thing for YouTube yesterday. And her father died about 2 weeks ago. So I had been keeping in touch with her. Her father was in ICU. He had a brain aneurysm. Questions about end of life, maintaining life. Very, very difficult situation for the family. Do we preserve life? You know, preservation of life will mean that, you know, his life's not going to be very good, regardless, and so on and so forth. And then I went to Umrah and I lost touch with her, talking probably every other day or once a week, her mother and her. So I found out yesterday that her father had died, because we lost touch. I just came from Umrah, as I mentioned. And my GPS took me 2 blocks away from here. And I'm borrowing someone's Mercedes-Benz, not a Mercedes-Benz. I wish it was. That's fine. And yeah, it's weird. Why did my GPS, I put this address in, I know this place, and I'm talking to Na'man on the phone, saying, when I found out that her father died, let me say honestly that sincerely, I was like, I really want to see her mom. I know her mother. Just, you know, give my love. I missed the funeral because yesterday, and then didn't think I was going to be able to visit them. LA is so huge. So I kind of felt bad about it, like, wow, subhanAllah, I wish I could see them, you know, just to say my respects and like ta'azah, you said Arabic. So I'm talking to Na'man on the phone. I'm 2 blocks away. There's like this big smoke shop and all kind of other stuff. And I see this girl with hijab, right, in the street. And I said, no, man, I gotta go. So I said, that's my homie. I said, what? That's my homie. And I was like, that's Kosar. So her mother and her are like outside. And that's where my car took me. Wallahi, that's where my GPS took me. I put this address. And then I just jump out of the car, and her, of course, scares him. Big white dude. You know, who didn't pay whose bill? You know. And then her mother and her was like, how'd you get here? Like, we really wanted you to be here. So I think when we talk about the concept of community in North America, that's been the piece that's been missing for a long time, is like love, like caring for each other. We've built institutions that teach. We have classes all the time. We have our Quran schools, mashallah. We have so many lectures. We're not a stupid community. Like, we're not an ignorant community, even religiously. But that's not the answer to everything. So what I would like to talk about just briefly is, you know, the inspiration of your community. I came here, I almost took a job here. I don't know if you know about it, because I was so inspired, and man's vision and the community's vision, and the Valley historically has always been a community that's just about to take off. It's like it's just about to take off, and then something happens. You know, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, because just like what happened to me and her family, like الَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى, everything happens by the will and mercy and wisdom of Allah. But I feeling when talking to, you know, men and I are generationally very similar, you're in a very good place. And this institution is in an incredible location. And the fact that you see so many young people here is a really, really powerful testimony to the potential that you have. And then I was so inspired, I said, yeah, man, I think I'll come here, man. This is incredible. He's like, you're going to leave a 70,000 square foot structure with like 6 stories in Boston and ABC News. And I said to him, you know, we need communities. Like, we need real community. So what I'd like to talk about really is the need, number one, for you to feel motivated behind this project. These are the type of projects, you know, when the building looks like this and the paint's not done. That's where there's barakah. You find a lot of sincerity in projects like this. Projects that not everyone wants to jump behind, that are kind of off the grid, that came through a tremendous, I mean, we all know the history of Islam in the Valley. It's really interesting. It's like the Game of Thrones, right? And you see those challenges are really what bakes a good community. It has to be baked, yeah. Baked like samosas, or parathas, whatever. Just you bake it. So let's talk quickly about the importance of love. Like, we don't talk about love in our community. You know, Allah is so loving. His name is Wudud. What's the name for love in Arabic? No, it's a different one. Wad or wid. So that means Allah is so loving. He's wid twice. He's Wudud twice. And we sometimes forget the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us. You know, oftentimes people, young children, I sent my daughter once to an Islamic school, and, you know, no doubt there needs to be the terror of God, right? The terror of God should exist. But that's not the default. You know, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim was asked, who's better, the one who fears Allah or loves Allah? He said, the one who loves Allah, and out of their love they fear Him. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we're talking about the love of Allah, Allah is al-wudud, the one who loves. And in the Quran, we find a number of instances of that love mentioned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yuhib al-muttaqeen, He loves the people of piety, He loves the muhsineen, the people who struggle to do good. He loves those who struggle, who strive, who try. He loves young people who use their youth to try to draw nearer to Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there's a beautiful hadith of our beloved Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he says, Inna Allah, إِذَا أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى عَبْدًا, if Allah loves somebody, Nada Jibreel, He calls Jibreel. And one of our teachers said, you know, Jibreel is used to deliver powerful messages. So for example, say that Jibreel is used to send revelation. And then also He's used for this purpose. So that means that this purpose also is great. It's a great purpose. Something powerful. And that is, he said, if Allah loves somebody, He calls Jibreel. So love is something considered incredibly powerful. And He says, Inna Allah ta'ala yuhibbu falan, Allah loves such and such person, fahibbu. So love that person. He orders Jibreel to love that person. And then Sayyidina Jibreel, he turns to all of the malaika in the heavens. In the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, said that there's no place in the heavens except like this space, except there's an angel there. Indeed, Allah loves such and such a man or woman. He mentions your name, mentions my name, so love that person. So all of the malaika will love that person. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he said that there's no space in the heavens this big except there's an angel. You know, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, was asked about the heavens, 7 heavens, and he said that there is not a space in the heavens, the comparison or the size of the heavens is such that the first heaven into the second is like a ring in the desert, the second into the third is like a ring in the desert, the third into the fourth is like a ring in the desert, until the seventh. And he said all 7 heavens are like a ring, the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how big are the 7 heavens? So that means in that universe, that there's not a space this big except there's an angel that loves you. And then he said, ثُمَّ يَدْعُ الْقُبُولُ فِي الْأَرْضِ, and then the love of that person will fall into the hearts of the people. Like that's the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he used to tell, Allah tells us in the Quran He loves people. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. But also our beloved Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he used to tell people, I love you. You know, sometimes you give a talk about love. I've been invited to conventions. They're like, what's the topic? I said, let's talk about love. They're like, well, brother, I don't know. We've become filthy people. We've become filthy people to the point that we project our filth on things that aren't filthy. We turn them into disgusting things. Not a lot of that has to do with our environment, our fears, our understandings of culture. So, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Sayyidina Mu'adh, he was young like these young guys here. And the Prophet used to say to him, on more than one occasion, he used to say, Wallahi ya Mu'adh inni uhibbuk. He used to say to him, Mu'adh, Wallahi I love you. In fact, sometimes Mu'adh said he would like scare me, he would shock me. Like, he said one day we finished praying and Sayyidina Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ya Mu'adh. And Mu'adh said, well, huh? He said, Wallahi inni uhibbuk. He said, Wallahi I love you. Once they were on a donkey together, riding a donkey. He said, Ya Mu'adh. Mu'adh. Mu'adh turned around, Wallahi inni uhibbuk. Wallahi I love you. More than like 7, 8 occasions, Sayyidina Mu'adh radiallahu anhu said, the Prophet ﷺ grabbed me. He said, Wallahi I love you. How many times can our young people say, an Imam said to me, I love you? How many times can they say, even a male figure, just a male figure? Masculinity now is being played out in the world in a very strange way, where we're hard, but we're effeminate. It's very weird. We're very hard. Well, I'm hard, right? But then I'm very effeminate. My jeans are, you know, I'm wearing like compression socks for jeans. 30, 40 weight. Right? And it's like, this dichotomy is really creating a destructive personality, and that's why men walk into marriages not being men, and women walk into marriages not being women. So the Prophet ﷺ builds this idea of masculine love, this idea. There's a beautiful article that came out, why men need to love each other, in the sense that they need to have this tremendous love. I know The Kite Runner is a controversial book, but one of the beautiful aspects of the book is the love shared between those 2 brothers in the beginning. You know, the genuine ukhuwa. Why do we have ukhuwa? The Sahaba, Abu Bakr, Umar, they teach us how to love each other, how to care for each other, and how to be in touch with each other. So the Prophet ﷺ tells him, Ya Mu'adh inni uhibbuk, Ya Mu'adh inni uhibbuk. Happened to many of the Sahaba. So much that the Sahaba became jealous of each other, right? Which one of us do you think the Prophet loves more? So they had like this competition. So Sayyidina Amr ibn As, radiallahu anhu, Amr ibn As, he thinks it's him. Because as Sayyidina Abu Hurairah said, the Prophet treated us all the same. Like, we thought he loved us all the same. There was no contradiction. The sinner and the saint felt the same in the community of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Sayyidina Amr ibn As, he figures, you know what? I'm the one he loves most. So he goes, in Sahih Muslim, he goes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, Ya Rasulullah, ayyu nas ahabbu ilayk. O Messenger of Allah, who do you love the most? And Amr ibn As is like, yep, it's all now. Got it. And the Prophet said, Aisha. The Prophet's smart. You know, Think about where his house was and where his masjid was. So who would be listening? Yeah, exactly. Huh? He said, what? He said, Aisha. And then he said, my wife, Aisha. And then Sayyidina Amr said, وَمِنَ الرِّجَالِ. Amr al-As is very smart. He said, what about the men though? Men you love the most. Got this. And the Prophet said, Abuha. She said, her father. But the point is, Amr al-As thought that I'm that one. There was no discretion, no contradiction in this community. We're all the same. The Prophet treats us the same. He values us. We feel a sense of value in the community of the Prophet. Once the Prophet was with his companions, and this is how much he embraces his community and he makes the community feel welcome. Muslims don't feel welcome. If I wasn't an Imam as a white convert, I wouldn't go to the masjid. And that's crazy. I would go just to pray. I'd go pray and leave. But my job happens to be, what it is. And listen to this. This is so powerful. The Prophet is with his companions. They're walking in a Baqi'. And Rasul said to them, وَدِدْتُ أَنْ أَرَىٰ إِخْوَانِي. It's related by Malik the Muwatta. The Prophet said, the translation is really bad actually. But the real translation is, I would love to see our brothers and sisters. وَدِدْتُ from wid. I love to see them. And the Sahaba, their reaction is very funny. The Sahaba, the translation again, you lose it. Translation, translation is like, oh, pardon us, are we not your brethren? But the real meaning of it is like, we're not your brothers. What? No, you didn't. Like that's the feel of their expression. What? So, Qadi Iyad, great scholar, said, how is it that the Sahaba could respond like this? Alasna? That word it's used sometimes to put someone in check. Like if your son is out of line, ana abuk. Am I not your dad? That's how you use it. Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashab. Alam tara ara'ayta alladhi yukadhibu bi-din. It's like, wow. Use it to zaja, to put someone in check. So when they say, alasna, it's like, what? That's the meaning. But the English is, we're so worried about the dominant white culture. We're so worried about the dominant culture around us that will drain the translation of its emotions. We're so worried about being pious all the time that we'll even take the words of the Prophet and change them to make them seem a little bit more politically correct. We'll take the words of the Sahaba, drain them of their emotions. And that's why young people, honestly, I bet most of them don't read translations of the Quran. I bet if you ask them, they don't. Do they read translations of Hadith? No, why? One of the things they'll tell you is I can't connect. You can't connect because the emotions have been taken out. Even the Arabs. Why did the Arabs love Sha'arawi? Because Sha'arawi brought back the emotional feel of it. People were, oh, okay. Oh, there it is. The best example I can give you is if you were to make mantu or biryani without spice. That's what the translation is. And you're like, what? Who made this, So the Prophet ﷺ, his companions are like, excuse me, we're not your brothers? Because Al-Taqadi Iyadi said, because the Prophet said love. I love these people. So there was this tremendous feeling of that all of the companions of the Prophet were the objects of prophetic love. So there's this competition for it. Right? And there's this feeling of value. And then the Prophet, and this is powerful for us here, he said, Bal antum ashab. He said, you're my companions. Our brothers and sisters are those that's going to come after us. You. He's talking about you guys. The Prophet, his love was so great, and he expressed his love so much, that not only did he say it to Mu'adh, not only did he say it to his community, he extended it to the community that he never saw, and that they would never see him. In fact, he said about you very beautifully about us. He said to them, he said, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِي وَلَمْ يَرَوْنِي. They said, who are they? Who are those people you love? He said, those who believe in me and never saw me. How many of you believe in Muhammad? How many of you never saw him? Alas. So the love of the Prophet is such that it extends to even his ummah who never saw him. Instead, what do we hear all the time? Oh, you guys are so bad, you're so bakwas, your ummah is horrible, you're no good, you're evil, you're far away from the Prophet. We shouldn't tell people that. We should remind them that the struggles that you go through, the difficulties that you face with drugs, whatever it is, family issues, all those challenges, boyfriend, girlfriend, all that you have that you're making to try to do right, I'm trying to do right, is why the Prophet loved you in difficult times. In fact, he said, these people will do good. This is a good hadith. He was talking to the Sahabi. He said, these people, this generation, will do good that's equal to 40 Sahabi. Like one good deed of theirs is equal to 40 of you. So I'm like, what? What? They got mad again. And they said, but how? And he said, because they will live in times of difficulty. They will live in times where it's hard to be down. It's hard to hold on to it. So the love of the Prophet ﷺ is such that it extends not just to his close companions, not to his broader community, but even the later community, the akhir of the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ was such a loving person and so kind and so concerning that his love touched people, and we'll give some specific examples of, we're talking about a community. Number one, we need to be a community. This is extremely important as you start out, that doesn't expect perfection. It's one of the biggest problems of the Muslim community in America, and it's heightened because of the immigrant situation or the convert situation. Immigrants and converts, I don't like this dichotomy that we're very different. I don't believe that. We might be culturally very different, but spiritually there's a lot of intersection between us. And at the same time, we have some of the same insecurities. The immigrant community is worried about, what are people going to say about me? The convert is worried about, what are my family going to say about me? That's a shared struggle. It's a shared struggle. But because of that, we tend to create this discourse of hyper-piety that makes, actually it's a utopian discourse, that really causes us not to be normal. We're not normal people. So for example, if a young man came in this community and said, you know what, I have a drug addiction problem. Instead of saying, let's help this person, let's embrace this person, let's build this person, well, I'll say, how could you embarrass Islam? How could you embarrass the community? Because we're worried about this hyper-piety. Worried about hyper-piety. Instead of dealing with real issues, we'd rather create this kind of red herring argument about we have to be perfect. The first thing that this community has to understand, it's extremely important, is that Islam did not ask us to be perfect. Islam says that Islam is a perfect system for a non-perfect world. Islam is a perfect system to be put into play in a very almost eclectic set of circumstances, which are impossible for us to be perfect. If this was Jannah, there would be no need for Islam. But this is not Jannah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said this in a beautiful hadith. He said, "Inna ad-deena yusr." He said, religion is ease. Religion is ease. وَلَنْ يُشَدْ. And no one makes this religion hard on themselves. إِلَّا غَلَبَ. Except they lose. He said, فَسَدِّدُوا وَقَارِبُ. The word he used, saddid, actually means to shoot an arrow at a target. That's the actual meaning of an arrow. You're to shoot an arrow at a target. Now let's be honest, all of us as community members here, right? If we were to put an arrow back there, I know we have some outlaws, so they can probably do it. But if we were to put a target back there, and we're all to send 100 yards away, or 50 or 25 yards away, and say, all of us have to hit the center, or we shouldn't shoot the arrow. How many of us would shoot the arrow? This little brother, and if he shot out, we'd all be like, Astaghfirullah, how could you shoot the arrow? You missed. How could you miss? You're such an embarrassment to our community. He said he wouldn't miss. But if you missed, exactly. Good, no, it's good. Don't say shh, let them be kids. See, that's what I mean. You want to control everybody. Why are we worried about kids interacting with the Imam? Oh God, you embarrass the community. Oh my God, you embarrass your parents. No. What he's, and I did this on purpose, I'm sorry, I set you guys up. They just shot the arrows in front of me. No one else would speak to me, but they shot some arrows. Right? Instead of saying, oh God, like we don't want you to interact with your mom, because but they can listen to JT. They can listen, they can interact with everything else, but in the community we create this it's not adab, it's not adab. People used to pass gas in Sahih Muslim in the gathering of the Prophet. It happened, and everybody laughed. He said, Abu Hurairah said the Prophet was teaching and da-da, and then everybody laughed. It's in Sahih Muslim, and the Prophet said, why would you laugh at something people do? The Prophet has game, but he doesn't. How to deter the moment. I've read this hadith before, and every time when I leave, there's 5 people waiting outside. Like, brother, you shouldn't shame our beloved messenger. Astaghfirullah. It's in Sahih Muslim, though. Do you think you respect the Prophet more than Imam Muslim? Again, hyper-piety. To the point that we allow, in the name of, and piety becomes an ideology. When piety becomes an ideology, it becomes fascism. And when it becomes fascism, it leads to intolerance. And intolerance leads to the inability to deal with real issues, real problems. I guarantee you, if you give a halaqah here once a week on how to survive high school, you'll pack the house. You'll pack the house. First topic, gender issues. You're going to pack the house. Second topic, drugs and thugs. Pack the house. Third topic, entertainment. Pack the house. But you know what? You have a group of people who will swim around like sharks around wounded seals, who will say, you know, brother, this is not a nightclub, brother. Wallahi, this is a masjid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We would rather have the masjid empty and holy than packed in dealing with issues. And that's our problem. And what's going to happen to those kids? Well, you can, hey, we're like what the people of Moses said to him when, you go fight, we'll watch you. So we say to our children, you go over there and fight, we're good. And when you screw up, we're going to nail you. When you talk to young people in the American Muslim community, they don't have a problem with belief, they don't have a problem with amal, they have a problem with connection. They don't feel valued. More so for young women. I mean, it's hard to be a woman in the Muslim community. I'm not saying that to preach to the women, because I know people do that and keep the women going and you're good. Seriously, when I was in Medina, a sister, she brought her children, her two beautiful daughters, like 7 and 8 years old, to go on Umrah with us. And you know, in Medina, basically, if you're a woman, it's the hotel, the road to battle, and you can pray in the masjid. That's about it. Brothers, we're going on tours, the grave of Imam Malik, this is the house of Sayyidina Uthman, this is where Abdurrahman bin Auf lived. You know, brothers like, man, this is incredible. And then her little daughter said to me, Imam, we feel like we can't do anything. I just want to see the house of Abu Bakr. It's in the masjid, so you can't go on that side, right? So I said, I can take you for ice cream. And they were like, that's good, but that's not Abu Bakr's house. So, the Prophet ﷺ said, فَسَدِّدُوا. Saddidu means shoot the arrow. He didn't say hit the target. That's the beauty of it. He didn't say hit it. He said shoot it. Try. Make effort. So oftentimes our community, and this is an outcome of modernity, and our theology has been, especially by people like Sayyid Qutb and others, has been put into a theology of absolute perfection. Jahiliyyah, Iman. Whereas most of Islam is makruhat and mubahat, disliked things and permissible things. It was always this big negotiation between, can you do this, can you not do this? It was never totalitarianism. It's like this or it's like that. It was never that way. And that came out of modernity. May Allah bless them, forgive them. Scholars tried to do their best that they could do. Then the Prophet said, Saddidu, shoot the arrow, waqarribu, and try to get close. Like try to talk. So he's encouraging us to be creative. He's encouraging us to make effort. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet ﷺ said to Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. The Prophet said, what I ordered you to do it as best you can. It wasn't jahiliyyah and perfection. Jahiliyyah and perfection. This came out of modernity, rahimahullah, and milestones. But what the Prophet taught was very different. It was jahiliyyah, a lot of crud, excuse me, and imperfection. And that crud area was like this big. You know, people be shocked to know that Sayyidina Umar, he drank in Medina. Look how y'all know, huh? It's in the history books. Because he drank before alcohol was prohibited. Sayyidina Hamza, one of my sheikhs, he said, people don't realize this. Sayyidina Hamza, you know, he could not stop drinking. All Sahabas started to quit. All Sahabas started to slowly let it go. Right? Sayyidina Hamza couldn't. So my teacher said, it was a mercy from Allah that Sayyidina Hamza died before alcohol was prohibited. There's a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he died before alcohol was prohibited. The Prophet ﷺ did not create a community that expected perfection. He created a community that expected sincere, perfect effort. So he said to Abu Hurairah, وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. And I'm going to tell you why. Number one is the Sufis. They said the greatest disease of the heart is the Muslim who tries to live perfect. What do they mean by that? What I mean by that is that a person creates a false narrative because no one can live that way. No one can live that way. And that false narrative becomes a outsourcing of their desires. So that's why sometimes you find religious people are mean and harsh and rough and just disgusting people. One of my good friends is a convert. He left Islam, he came back to Islam, alhamdulillah. I asked him, why did you leave Islam? He said, I left Islam because of religious people. Not because of people who are out there tripping. This is someone who used to be in the masjid all the time. Because he would become the object of their own insecurities and bad kind of emotional states. He became the object of abuse. So the Prophet levels that playing field and says, do your best. Do your best. Do your best. I'm not expecting perfection. Once a man came to the Prophet ﷺ, this is in Medina, it's related by Imam al-Bukhari, a Muslim. He's a new Muslim. He comes to Sayyidina Rasul ﷺ, and Abu Talha and Anas, who narrate this hadith, said, MashaAllah. See, when I teach, I like having kids running around and stuff. Don't throw them out. It just doesn't make any sense. And then when they're 13, we want them to come back in. I've been watching The Lion King for 13 years. I want to keep watching The Lion King, right? And then when they're 25, we're like, can you donate? No, I want to watch The Lion King. I want to watch The Hobbit. And really, if you have a community, then it should be a community. Everyone should be there. So the Prophet ﷺ was talking to this man. Abu Talha said, we were listening to him, and we couldn't hear what he said. We couldn't understand what he was saying. Then we realized he was asking about how to get to Jannah. The Prophet said to him, "Khamsu salawat," 5 prayers. He said, "Hal alayya ghayruha?" I have to do anything else? Is there anything else I have to do? You know, what would we say? Yeah, witr, tahajjud, duha, ishraq. The Prophet said, "La ila anta tawa'a." No. Unless you want to do more. You good? He said, after that he said, "Sawm Ramadan." Fast the month of Ramadan. Do I have to do anything else? We say Monday, Thursdays, every other day, fast down Ashura, this. The Prophet doesn't have goals of perfection, he has goals of perfect effort. You understand how to deal with people. He said to him, La ila anta tawa'a. No, unless you want to. If you want to, you can. He said, Hajj. You should make Hajj. Do you have to do more than that? Umrah every year in Ramadan. I said, La ila anta tawa'a. If you want to, you can. The guy got excited. Man, I can do this. I can do this. He stood up and he said, Wallahi la uzidu ala hada wa anqus. It's better when he stood up. He said, I'm not going to change this. I'm not going to add. I'm not going to take away. Now, who's sitting there? This is in Medina. This is after the Sahaba have changed. You have Umar, who's very strong, Abu Bakr, Uthman, Aisha, Salama. All these incredible Sahaba. They're at a LeBron station now, right? They're Kobe-esque. Meaning they're the great Sahaba that we know. They've arrived. But they're watching this. The Prophet said, Man sarra an yanzura ila rajulin min ahli jannati falyanzur ila hada. I said, whoever wants to see a person from Jannah, look at him. It's simple. Whoever wants to see someone from paradise, look at him. Now, that's the first thing we need to really understand is that as you're building a young community in the Valley, you're in LA, you have an incredible mission. It's the entertainment capital of the world. LA is the swag capital of America. It's a very opulent place. You're going to have to give each other some room to grow. Some room to grow. Some room to make mistakes. Some room to experiment. Some room to do things a little differently. And don't have this hyper-pious, freaked out ethos. And you know who has this the most? Are quote-unquote the non-practicing Muslims. That's why they don't practice. Have you ever been in someone's house? Like, I have a really good friend in the Bay Area, and this brother wears like, really expensive suits. He's an elder. He actually built a masjid in the Afghan community. He doesn't pray, older man. But he's a wonderful person. But he likes me for some reason. We have a friendship. So I was sitting at his house one day, and he was like, "Do you know why I'm not a namazi? He's like, I don't pray. I don't go to the masjid." I was like, I always wondered, you built a mosque. Hello, maybe. Pray in it. You built it. And he said, and he started to talk about Islam. Wallahi, the way that he looks at Islam is more extreme than any practicing Muslim I've ever seen in my life. Like, really extreme. So I said to him, I said, where did you learn this? He said, I learned on my own. And I said, no, this is not Islam, bro. This is craziness. And then I said to him one hadith, and he started crying. I said, listen to this hadith. So I said, Ar-Rahimun yarhamuhumullah. Be merciful. Allah said, I am merciful to the ones who are merciful. Irhamu man fil ard yarhamukum man fis sama. Be merciful to those in the earth, the one in the heavens will be merciful to you. He said, this is a statement of our Prophet. He said, this is the first time I heard Rahmah and Islam. Rahmat. Once I was at UC Berkeley giving a lecture, and this was a policy lecture. It wasn't a spiritual lecture. And there's this girl in the audience with like Kim Kardashian hair and goth eyes, very tall, high cheekbones, looked like a model, you know, and sitting at the 50-yard line place. And I was like, man, who's this girl, man? And she starts bawling. I said it in the lecture, I said, you know, Rumi said something, I forgot about love of Allah, love of people. She starts bawling, like crying, like an old woman on Sunday afternoon in the church. And I'm like, dang, man, I must be doing good. Because he's like a policy talk, and she's like, you know, her eyeliner is like all and she started looking like Birdman. And then afterwards, she was like, do you know who I am? And I was like, she was tall, man. If I said she's tall, you know she was tall. And she said, I'm Muslim, dude. I'm a Desi Muslim. She's like, this is the first time I ever heard love in my religion. She's like, I've never heard someone talk about love in our religion before. She's like, I've been yelled at. I went to a mosque one time to pray. She look how I look. I was like, yeah, mashallah, you know. And she said, I stopped one time to make namaz. I just felt in my heart like I need to go back to Allah. She had pulled over at this masjid in Fremont. No, it's San Francisco. And I went, and this guy started yelling at me. And he told me, get out. She's like, I had never heard love in this community before. So the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us not to expect perfection, because when we expect perfection, we create that type of community. And we're seeing that now play out with like groups like ISIS. Those of you who come from certain parts of the world, you've seen what happens when religious people adopt an ideology that expects perfection. You know, it was the opposite. Look at the Prophet ﷺ, and we'll finish, inshallah. In Sahih Bukhari, one day his companions were sitting together, and this guy walks into the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, drunk. Sahabi. We tell this story all the time. Again, the 5 guys will be waiting outside. Not 5 guys burgers. 5 guys. They're like, you're in and out. We're 5 guys, and you're in and out. Check it. Got skills. I like that. We use that more often. So, I'll make nothing on myself. So, this man walks into the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, and he's drunk. He's lit like a fuse. And the Sahaba are like, hold up. And then, who do you think he asked for? Like, who?
I think to leave.
They didn't tell him to leave, see? That's how we look at it. They told him to get out. They didn't tell him to get out. They didn't throw him out. But who do you think he asked for? Who do you think he's trying to find? The Prophet. If you were drunk, young brother, okay, no offense, would you come to a mosque? If you were drunk, would you come to a mosque for help? Would you look for the Imam?
If I needed help, I would look for the mosque.
And you were drunk. You walk right in this party right here. Yeah, he's like, no. Exactly. I knew you were mustard. I didn't even come either. Mustard quick. Most young people, young women have issues. I'm good. I'll stay at home. I'll find the answer on Tumblr. But you can tumble. This This man, I love
You're
you.
not drunk.
But no, you're not drunk. No, you're not. Why don't you say, yell your name really loud? See, again, that pious fear, he's like, oh my God, now people think I'm drunk. I'm maybe drunk, dude. I'm not drunk. Where we at last night? So he comes to the masjid, and he's drunk, and he asks for the Prophet. He trusts, you got to be Ameen before you can be Nabi. That's why I said this. The second thing is, after creating a community that doesn't have, it has perfect efforts, and it expects good, but it doesn't expect absolute perfection from people. We are dealing with human beings here. Those of us who are married or divorced, you know it's not easy to be human. Children, you think, oh, I'm going to have kids, they're going to be kafaz, mashallah. My kids are going to be salihin. Yeah, right. that lasts about 5 minutes. Right? Little brother, because you think, as soon as they're born, right? They can start, la ilaha illallah. No, they come out screaming. So much for that narrative. And then you're like, so, did you memorize just Amma? My son's like, no, I memorized SpongeBob. Like, I got all that down. And you realize, it's not easy. Oh, my daughter, she's so good. Alhamdulillah, she'll be perfect. She's a beautiful woman. I'm an imam. I come home, my daughter's like wearing all purple. It's like 5 years ago. I'm like, the heck is she wearing? Prince was popular 30 years ago. Like, got purple on, man. And she's like, Dad, is it okay? Can you take me to this concert? My daughter! I'm like, what? You know, I didn't say that. I didn't do Little Johnny. I just was like, what? I said to her, well, initially, I Little Johnny. Initially, I was like, what? But then I remembered, I was a kid once, man. So I said to her, really, what? I said, what concert? She said, Justin Bieber. I saw the purple on. This is when he was cool. Before he got weird. No. Before the first weird. No, before that one. No. He was like, I'm gonna be out for a while.
He was all like, he was all like,
okay, whatever. This is not disrespectful. I would love to have my son remember, man, one time I went back and forth with the Imam. That was awesome. Not just be quiet, shut up, you're because what's going to happen is when you do this to them, they have no relationship with us. Zero. But now if he goes home and he sees me watching on YouTube, he's like, man, that guy's kind of cool, you know? Like he hung out with me. You know, I have a friend, and I'll get to it. So the process of my daughter, Justin Bieber. So I said, look, I call Lupe. Lupe's my boy. Look at that. I said, look, man, this is what you do. It's your fault. So what am I supposed to do? He said, his father was an imam. He said, why don't you go with her? Take her. Go with her and sit with her. Embarrass her to death. And talk with her like, why do you want to go? What is it that makes you want to be here? Get into her psychology, right? So I said, I'll go with you. I'll take you. And she was like, hey, try this guy. She was like, what? She did the Little John. What? I said, yeah, we'll go together. I'll take you. We'll talk about it. We'll pray 2 rak'ah, we'll go. But then something happened. I checked the ticket cost. He's not weird, brother. That brother's tickets are not cheap. So I got out of it. But then I said to her, let's go out for dinner. Let's go out for dinner. Let's talk about why you want to go to that concert. So I learned a lot about my daughter. The point is, the process of invested in people, even in things that he didn't like about them, he learned about them so he could address it. A doctor can't write a prescription until he sees you. A doctor can't write a prescription until he takes a look at you. An architecture can't build a building until he is able to see where you want to have it. You can't do anything unless you lay foundations. We don't invest in each other to know about each other, to think about each other. Once one of my students was a Hafiz al-Quran, mashallah, in NorCal. I was driving by a shisha bar. I see this dude outside on the Blue Mint. He was reading Quran to me earlier that day. I pull over, I'm like, I was going on like this, you know. I got out of the car. Imagine he's like, and I'm like, I'm 6'6", 300 pounds at that time. Suge Knight, the albino Suge Knight. sorry. I'm sorry. That dreads come out of you, bro. Then I sat down and I said, look, man, I'm not even mad at you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not a judge. I'm not a judge. I'm not here to give you a ticket. I just have one question. Why do you do it? He said, because I'm lonely. He said, I didn't really like it, man. He said, I don't have a social setting. So I said, listen, why don't we work to create a social setting so you can try to move away from these things? And I said, just finish what you're doing. I'll see you later. And that was it. But he said, honestly, he started crying. He's like, I'm 32 years old. I'm divorced, so no one will marry me. All my friends that are in college are married with kids, so I don't like to be around them because it reinforces my loneliness. He's on meds for depression. He's like, so instead of going to a nightclub or instead of doing something worse, this is like a buffer for me between this and that world. And I said, look, man, I'm divorced. I know exactly how you feel right now. Like, I've been where you are. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. So I said to him, let's try to create the community that will help you not have to do what you're doing. It's like, no one even knows about this. No one even knows like how lonely it is to be divorced in Muslim people. It's like, no, as a man, people think, oh, men can just get married again. They go overseas and hook it up. It's like, it's not that easy. I want to find someone I like. You know, I want to find someone I can relate to. So the Prophet says, this man comes into his masjid, he's drunk, he has issues, and he asks for the Prophet in Sahih Bukhari. And the Prophet talks to him, and then the Sahaba, they start to hit him with shoes, right? They get upset, and they start to take it out on him, and then they start to insult him. And the Prophet says, very beautifully, do not help shaitan defeat your brother. Like, back off, man. Step off from him for a minute. And then Sahaba realized, oh wow, our bad, sorry. The version of Imam al-Tirmidhi is very powerful. After the ruckus and everything, the man, he comes, actually sits next to the Prophet. And they have this conversation. I don't know how to translate it, but it's like, you know, I got this problem, man. I'm sorry. And the Prophet's like with him, like, yeah, I know, but you're my boy. It's all good. You gotta deal with it. I'm here to help you deal with it, not get out like the girl. So here's the final few pieces of the puzzle. We're talking about building a community. When we read the prophetic community, we see that they accepted and addressed things that we will not accept and address. And the first one is just to make people feel loved and cared for. People are broken, man. You have a young sister who's been divorced, you have a sister or brother who's been abused. They're broken, they're shattered. And they come to community and all they're going to talk about is theology. I met a sister in NorCal, a Daisy woman in her mid-40s. She came and grabbed me. She's a big lady, man. Grabbed me, this is 13 years ago. And she said to me, I want you to know you're not my Imam. I'm like, what? I'm what? And she's like, you, Hamza Yusuf, Yasser Qadi, all of y'all, you're not my Imam. I said, hallelujah. Okay, I'm not your Imam. I said, can I ask a question? Why? She said, no. You know who my Imam is? That's not rude, that's real. That is not rude. I love her realness. I would rather be around a sincere sinner than a fake saint any day. And she said to me, but if you do the truth. She said to me, my Imam is Joel Osteen. Christian minister.
Oh my God.
See, we can't do that, oh my God. What we need to say is, no, not alhamdulillah, no. Internally, we need to say, but externally, we should be like, why? Why? How did that happen? She said to me, Imam, I was the victim of a relationship of extreme abuse. My husband broke my jaw. My husband broke my ribs. And there was never one effort in the community to speak out against domestic abuse. Once. 13 years, she said, I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't go to an imam. I was scared. I don't want the community, my husband's successful. They're going to say about me. And I just took it. She said some days, some weeks, it was 4 nights straight. Then he abused me. To the point where finally he broke my soul. And she said, I was driving a car, I turned on the radio, Joel Osteen, the first thing he talks about is domestic abuse. She said, I'm Muslim. She said, I know. As soon as I said Joel Osteen, you thought I was Kafir, didn't you? I was like, of course not. Me? No. Look at me. She said, that's our problem. We don't care about why people are broken. We just judge why they're broken. And it was a powerful moment for me, that experience. So here in the Valley, you have an opportunity. You can see by the setting of the masjid, obviously, you're not hyper-pious. That sounds really bad. You're obviously a relaxed community. You're comfortable with yourselves. You haven't sexualized your experiences to the point where you become perverts. And you think a woman in the building means, wild, we'll lose our minds. Vice versa. So here's the following you need. Number one is, I said, think about being a loving, embracing community first. Not we need to teach the people to deen. Oh, we need to be ulama, because you're not. You're doctors, you're lawyers, you're engineers. Theology is a very human science. It's not a black and white science. Secondly is you need the finances to pull it off. The Valley is the dead, we call it, you know what Imams call it? The death valley. Because no one ever gets invited here because masjids are so political, right? That unless you're on their team, you're not getting in, right? So consequently, you didn't have like a really, I would say, progressive, engaged, young, energetic community, but you have so many young, talented Muslims in the Valley. Everywhere I pull a gas station. Assalamu alaikum, Imam. What the heck? Guys at a 911 Porsche. Assalamu alaikum, how you doing? I don't go to the masjid, but I see on YouTube. Those people are here. They need, like on Walking Dead, they need like Terminus, but without the cannibalism piece. They need that hope, Elysius. They need that sacred place they can go where they can feel hope again. Your job is to be an institution of hope. Because people are broken, like that woman. Like that woman. The second thing is that you need to be financially strong. And you have to support this institution because the vision of Nu'man, the vision of Zubair, the vision of our brothers and sisters here is that vision. You're in California. I know celebrities. I'll be honest with you. I know a Maxim model who came to a mosque in California. What would make her come to a mosque? She reached out to me. She's like, you know what? I read about Islam and it moved me. Moved me to the point that I left the photo shoot and went to Jumu'ah. She said, I put on a jilbab in my car. Like I left the photo shoot from Maxim and I'm in my car, I put on a jilbab. And she's like, but to be honest with you, I can't find a masjid where I fit. Like I'm a wild man. Like I'm a bad person. She's having this conversation with me and I'm like, well you can go to No Man Ali Khan on YouTube. I don't know where to send her. So you're in a place where people can come and find Allah. And if you can do that, because listen, if you find a bunch of sick people outside and the hospitals are closed and you're the doctors, you need to blame yourself. You can't blame them. So having that community that I think initially starts by being institutionally in love with each other and emotionally involved. And how do you do that? You don't just do educational programming. Y'all need to kick it. Go hang out. Picnics, sporting events, go to a museum of art together, go climb some mountains together, have dinners with families where you get to see each other. Well, why did the Prophet have akhawa in Medina? He institutionalized emotional investment first. First thing he did is, you guys got to be friends. You have to really love each other. And not, oh, what are they up to? Ooh, our kids are better than their kids. My kid's going to UC Berkeley. Their kid's going to San Diego State. You know what that is? That's love of dunya. And that will destroy you. That's why we have problems. Ooh, their daughter is so much more light-skinned than my daughter. I have to buy some Fair and Lovely. Well, it worked for Beyonce. Oh, you know what? That's why our community is massively insecure. Oh man, that brother got that new car. I don't have a car. That's all dunya. You're above that. Muslim community is above that. That's trivial stuff. Ooh, we're Sayyids. They're not Sayyids. Our great-grandfathers were kings. Their great-grandfathers were maids. This. They're from this tribe. I'm from that tribe. You know, you're above that. They're Shawa'im. نحن مصريين كذا. وهم إيه. ودون فين. ونحن مش من القرية. من القاهرة. What? You don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. That's trivial. And those are all things that take us away from being loving communities. Right? So the first is to create, like, and that's what we try to do in DC is we actually choose families to be together for like 6 months. Have dinner together once or twice a month, hang out with the kids, and all that stuff. People you don't know. Not your tribe, not your friends. No. People you don't know. Not a bunch of layman's. No. People you don't know. Right? And then what happens is you foster relationships and you bring in also the converts, because converts get plugged into that, so there's a sense of belonging now in the community. The second thing is governance. The way that we're governing Muslim communities in America creates this lack of love. You should consider a model that does the following. Of course, you have major decisions that are strategically or structurally important for the institution. That's handled by the leadership. But the broader decisions should be made by the whole community. Town hall. Like in Boston now, they're choosing a new imam, town hall system. Not 5 people meet, hey, let's choose this guy because he's down with us. And then give him to the community. No. 3 or 4 imams come to the community, they interview, they have town halls with the larger community, they give khutbahs, they teach, they play with the youth, they this, and then afterwards like, hey, we got 10 candidates, you choose. Brothers and sisters are all involved. That you deal with the whole patriarchal feminist concerns now, we're not involved. No, you're involved now. The whole community is involved now. The kids are involved, the youth are involved. Major decisions, expansion of the masjid, community decision. Not 5 or 6 people. Why? Because 5 or 6 people are going to decide to do this $18 million expansion, but who's going to pay for it? The 5 or 6 people. The communities, so the community should make that decision. To have a wall or not have a wall. Who makes the decision? Let the sisters make the decision. They'll make the decision. Let it be. So in Boston we did that, and half the sisters who are over 50 were like, we want a wall. Sisters under 50 were like, no way. Okay? So we actually have wall, no wall. It's there. They decide that, not us. What kind of services should we offer? These are things we need. Can you stop that? These are things. Are you drunk, brother? Stuff Alazi. So let them make those decisions. Youth programming. So you talk to the youth. What do you want to learn? Not, okay, we're here to teach you some curriculum that you find super boring. No. What as young people are you investing in that you want to learn about? Sisters programming. Not what it means to be a good Muslimah, what it means to be this. No. What is it that you want to? So we have the concept of the learning imam. The imam is skilled. The imam is taught and trained to teach. But you tell him what you want to learn. That's more empowering than him just telling you, this is what I think you should learn. Because he doesn't know you. So reciprocal governance and reciprocal programming. So that you have this constant invigoration in the community. It doesn't get boring. The same topics aren't given over and over again. And also theology doesn't become highly intangible because now you're telling him, I want to learn this or her because of this. And I learned this at Johns Hopkins. I gave a lecture at Johns Hopkins once, all these future doctors. They're all married, so don't ask me. And maybe one. And she's from Kashmir. I'm in trouble now. Exactly. So, and there's one brother also Kashmir too, mashallah. And I was talking to them, and they said, well, we want to learn a book of fiqh about how to pray. So I'm going to read some classical book about fiqh. So the first chapter was what? If a non-Muslim is cleaning and something drops out of their pot and hits your clothes, are your clothes dirty? So I said to them, how many of you that's ever happened? They were like, nobody. And then I said to them, so then let's do it different. I'm going to put the book down, and just ask me questions. About salah? These are all doctors. What do you think the first question is? So the first question the doctor's going to ask. That's the second question.
How does it help?
About salah. Yeah.
How did you pray that?
No, they're asking me about salah. Listen to what I'm saying. They ask me about prayer. It's not about that. Pay attention. They're asking me about salah. What is the first question the doctor's going to ask? No, hold on. You give someone. Yes, brother. If he had told them earlier to shut up and be quiet, would they be asking questions? Exactly. Sisters, you can ask questions too. Being a woman doesn't mean you can't ask a question. Aisha said the best women were the Ansar. They used to ask questions all the time. Yes. Well, let's get someone, because you guys are like mobbing it. Someone else. Anyone else? Okay, now.
It's like the devotion that we do
No.
Okay.
Here's the first question I have. Yes. Do you have to pray 5 minutes? Do you have to pray 5 minutes? No, that's clear. Sister Vaya.
Can we shorten and combine our prayers?
Exactly. Why would they ask me that question first? Because of surgery. Like, can we join prayers? I'm like, what? I was like, and then internally I did Little John. No. But they're doctors. So I said to them, why did you ask me that question? No, I didn't judge them. And they said, I was like, listen, I have 8-hour surgery to do. I can't just leave. I can't just walk out and say, hey, I'll be back. You know what I'm saying? Hold down before, just make sure he doesn't die. So I said, according to the Hanabila and the Maliki, you can join the prayers. What was the next question? Blood. Is blood filthy? I said, in your situation, the fuqaha said no. So we did like 22 questions. Afterwards, I said, who can repeat all 22 questions? All of them could. You know why? Because they live that. That's how we should teach our communities. Not just coming and telling people what we think they need to learn, but again, there needs to be just reciprocation. This process. When you ask young people, man, you'll be surprised the kind of questions that they ask. The last point is that try to avoid any differences that would destabilize what you're trying to do. There's no difference worth destroying a community, except shirk. There's no difference worth destroying a community, except shirk. So let's go back to what we talked about quickly. Community, you're looking at a local community, you need to be focused internally. We don't have time to talk about this, making America your calling. America is your calling. Right? Whether you like it or not, I don't care where you're from, you are here, you're in here, you live here. And this, if you listen to Serial with Adnan Syed, the jury, what the jury say? You know what, at the end of the day, he's just like an American teenager. We thought he was like Pakistani, he's going to be very different. You know, like when we started looking at his life, it's like us. Same problems we have. Right? So when you make America your calling, you are indirectly and explicitly dealing with the problems of your children. Right? Secondly, a loving institution. That you care about each other. And you have to literally, and now you do that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Create the small group mentality, akhawa. Do programming that enhances getting to know each other. For example, in Boston, we do community dua. Think about how we do dua. It's very, very interpersonal. It's like, it's, you know, I make dua, I don't know you, you say Ameen, we out. In Boston, in Chicago, we started this, because Chicago is the murder capital of America. We did something called community dua. We said, listen, tell us what you want us to pray for. And then we'll all say Ameen. African-American brother, old man, raised his hand and said, my son was shot and killed today, pray for me. And he just set it off, and people were like, but we know you had a son? And they're like, we've known you, we didn't even know you had a son. Sister raised her hand and said, my mother's dying of cancer, pray for me. We did community dua. Instead of the Imam telling people what he thinks they need to pray for, they're telling him, these are things in my life. So we started doing it in Boston, tremendous student population. Guy raised his hand. He's like, I'm new to this city, and my father died today. He's like, this is my first time in this masjid. Immediately, brothers went to him and were like, we're going to stay at our house, we're going to take care of you, you know, hang out with you. So community dua, actually one of the most powerful things I've ever seen in Muslim community. And it helps you appreciate what people are going through. And it's beautiful because people cry and people laugh. You should cry and laugh and dua. One sister in Chicago, she raised her hand, she's like, there are no good men in the Ummah. To give us some good men. And his brother, right, raised his hand, like, and there's no good women. You know? And it was very powerful. So those kind of moments where we're able to celebrate our humanity, you should do cultural nights where you honor each other's culture, right? Where you get to appreciate where each other are from. The next point I said is that don't expect perfection. Don't expect perfection. The third is financial support. Nothing happens without 501c3s in America are anemic. They're constantly anemic. I mean, they constantly need support. And the last is that I can endorse, you know, as their brother, knowing these brothers for a long time, Adel, who I brainwashed like 20 years ago. These are incredibly talented, wonderful trend-setting visionary people. And you should support them because the Valley is a strategically important community in LA. There has to be an institution in this city that people can say, these are really what Muslims are about. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, inshallah, raise you, increase you. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi.